The house felt eerily empty when Mom pulled out of the driveway. I leaned against the kitchen counter, pretending not to notice Caleb, my stepbrother, sprawled across the couch like he owned the place. He always did that. Took up space without asking, like the house, like everything, had always been his. It hadn't. Not until 6 months ago when Mom married his dad, blending our messy lives into one roof, one broken family. "What's with the face, Jamie?" Caleb called lazily, tossing a popcorn kernel into his mouth. "Nothing," I muttered, pouring myself a glass of water I didn't really want. My palms were sweating. I could feel his eyes dragging over me, casual but heavy, like he was cataloging every inch. I hated how my body reacted, the heat curling low in my stomach, the prickling awareness. This wasn't normal. This wasn't okay. "You gonna just stand there looking pretty, or are you gonna chill with me?" he teased, patting the cushion next to him. I rolled my eyes but crossed the room anyway, sinking into the seat he offered. Too close. I could smell his cologne, something dark and woodsy and masculine, and it made my head spin. We weren't supposed to be alone like this. Not when the air crackled with something too sharp, too hungry. Caleb stretched, his shirt riding up to flash a sliver of toned stomach. He caught me looking, smirked. Did it again, slower this time, deliberate. "Like what you see," he murmured. I flushed. "You're an asshole," I muttered, shoving his shoulder. He laughed, that low, easy sound that always made my gut twist. "Takes one to know one, little brother. Little brother." The words felt wrong. Sour. Because nothing about how I felt toward Caleb was brotherly. I shifted, trying to put some distance between us, but he just draped his arm casually over the back of the couch, fingers brushing the nape of my neck in a way that felt anything but casual. "You're tense," he said, voice softer now. "Relax. It's just you and me." Exactly the problem. We sat there for a while, pretending to watch some dumb action movie. I barely registered the explosions on the screen. All I could feel was Caleb's presence, warm and humming beside me. He nudged me with his knee. "Remember when we first met?" "Yeah." My throat felt tight. "You called me a nerd and stole my headphones." He grinned. "You were a nerd. Still are. Whatever." I tried to sound annoyed, but my voice came out weak. "You cried," he said, amusement flickering in his eyes. "I did not." I protested, even though I totally had. Caleb laughed again, then, without warning, grabbed me in a headlock, knuckling my scalp roughly. "Say uncle," he demanded. "Fuck off." I wriggled, pushing at him, but he was bigger, stronger. His chest was pressed against my back, solid and real and overwhelmingly there. I froze for a second, acutely aware of the weight of him, the heat. My heart slammed against my ribs. He must have felt the shift because he let go suddenly, pulling back just enough to look at me. His face was close, too close, eyes dark, unreadable. Neither of us moved. Neither of us breathed. The world narrowed to just the two of us, suspended in a moment that teetered on the edge of something dangerous. I could see every freckle on his face, the faint scar on his eyebrow, the way his lips parted slightly, like he was about to say something, or do something. Then he blinked, the spell breaking. He sat back with a rough laugh, raking a hand through his messy brown hair. "Chill, dude. You look like you saw a ghost," he said, voice forced light. I shoved off the couch, heart hammering, desperate to put space between us. "I'm getting a drink," I mumbled, fleeing to the kitchen. Behind me, I heard him chuckle, low, amused, knowing. I leaned against the fridge, gripping the counter to steady myself. My whole body buzzed, every nerve ending alive. This couldn't happen. It shouldn't even be a thought. But when I closed my eyes, all I could see was Caleb's smirk. All I could feel was his hand, rough and possessive against my skin. Some lines, once crossed, you couldn't come back from. And tonight, with Mom gone and no one to stop us, it felt like those lines were blurring faster than I could stop them. I took a deep breath, opened the fridge, grabbed a soda I didn't even want. When I turned around, Caleb was standing in the doorway, watching me with that same dangerous glint in his eye. Like he knew. Like he was waiting. And part of me, the part one hated, was already halfway across the room to meet him. The living room lights dimmed to the soft, flickering glow of the TV screen. Caleb tossed the remote onto the coffee table and stretched, yawning dramatically, his shirt riding up again in a silent dare I tried desperately to ignore. I clutched my soda like it was some kind of shield, heart pounding as I sank back onto the couch, deliberately leaving a full cushion between us. It didn't matter. Caleb didn't respect boundaries. He never had. Slowly, lazily, he leaned across the distance, plucking the soda from my hand and taking a sip without asking. His fingers brushed mine, lingering just a second too long. My breath hitched. "You're tense again," he said, voice low, almost playful. "Thought you were gonna chill with me." "I'm chilling," I lied, even as my skin buzzed where he touched me. He grinned, tossing the soda back and setting it down. "You suck at lying, Jamie." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind was a chaos of want and shame, a war I was rapidly losing. Caleb shifted closer, his knee brushing mine. The contact was electric, burning straight through the denim of my jeans. I should have moved. I didn't. He picked up a deck of playing cards from the table, where the hell did those even come from? And started shuffling lazily. "Wanna play?" he asked, casual, like nothing was brewing under the surface. "What's the point?" I muttered. He smirked. "Loser owes the winner a dare." I hesitated. Every warning bell in my body screamed at me to say no. But Caleb raised an eyebrow, that damn cocky challenge lighting up his face. I hated losing. Especially to him. "Fine," I said, trying to sound bored. We played. I lost. Over and over. By the third hand, I was practically vibrating with nerves, and Caleb was smiling like a cat who'd cornered a mouse. He tossed down his cards with a flourish. "Another win for me," he said smugly. "You know what that means." I swallowed hard. "What?" He leaned in, so close I could feel the heat of his body, smell the faint hint of soap and something purely, maddeningly him. "You owe me a kiss," he said, voice like smoke. I froze. He wasn't joking. Not this time. For a second, the world narrowed to just his eyes, dark, daring, burning, and the thundering pulse in my ears. "You're not serious," I croaked. His lips twitched. "Come on, Jamie. Don't be a pussy." I should have laughed it off. I should have punched him, or walked away, or done literally anything but what I did next. I leaned forward. Slowly. Terrified. Thrilled. Our mouths met in a clumsy crash, teeth bumping, breaths hitching, and it was a disaster. It was perfect. Caleb's hand slid to the back of my neck, fingers threading into my hair, anchoring me as he deepened the kiss. His lips moved against mine with a confidence that stole the air from my lungs. Heat flared, wild and desperate, spiraling out of control. I whimpered into his mouth, shame burning through me even as my hands clutched his shirt, dragging him closer. Closer wasn't close enough. When he finally pulled back, both of us breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing to say. The line had been crossed, burned, obliterated. I opened my mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to scream, maybe to beg him to do it again, but Caleb beat me to it. "Didn't think you'd actually do it," he whispered, voice wrecked and wondering. "Me either," I breathed. He smiled, slow and dangerous. "Wasn't so bad, was it?" It wasn't. That was the worst part. It was everything I'd been craving, and everything I should never have wanted. We can't," I stammered, guilt crashing over me like a tidal wave. "Caleb, this is wrong," he finished, eyes still locked on mine. His thumb traced my jawline in a touch so gentle it made my chest ache. "Maybe," he said softly. "But it didn't feel wrong. Not to me." I didn't know how to answer. Every part of me screamed this was a mistake, a huge, world-shattering mistake, but my heart, my traitorous heart whispered something else. I loved the way he looked at me. I loved the way he touched me. I loved that, for once, someone saw me, really saw me, and wanted me anyway. Even if it was him. Especially because it was him. The TV droned in the background, forgotten. The rest of the world might as well have ceased to exist. Caleb sat back slowly, giving me space. His face was open, waiting. For a decision. For a disaster. For me. I stared at him, my mind a battlefield of fear and longing. And even though I knew better, even though every logical part of me screamed to run, I stayed. I stayed. The silence between us stretched, thick and pulsing. Caleb's eyes never wavered, pinned on me like he could see straight through to every secret I tried to bury. I should have stood up. I should have walked away. Instead, I stayed glued to the couch, heart hammering so violently I was sure he could hear it. He shifted closer, slow and deliberate, giving me every chance to bolt. But I didn't move. I couldn't. His hand found my thigh, fingers splaying possessively over the denim. A simple touch, nothing explicit, and yet it lit my nerves on fire. I sucked in a shaky breath. "This is crazy," I whispered. "Maybe," Caleb said, thumb brushing tiny circles against my jeans. "But it's ours. Our secret. Our shame. Our salvation." He leaned in again, slower this time, giving me every chance to say no. I didn't. I let it happen. Our mouths met, softer now, exploratory. Caleb kissed like he had all the time in the world, like he wanted to memorize every angle, every reaction. I melted into it, into him, into the forbidden rush flooding my veins. His hands roamed higher, ghosting over my sides, tugging at the hem of my shirt. I whimpered into his mouth, desperate and unsure. He pulled back just enough to whisper, "Tell me to stop." I stared at him, wide-eyed, trembling. The words balanced on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't say them. I didn't want to. Instead, I surged forward, crashing my mouth against his in a silent plea. That was all the permission he needed. Caleb moved fast, stripping my shirt off with a roughness that made my skin tingle. I sat there, exposed, vulnerable, shivering under his gaze. He drank me in like he'd been starving for years. "You're beautiful," he murmured, reverent. No one had ever said that to me before. Not like that. Not like they meant it. I flushed, ducking my head, but he tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Don't hide from me," he said, voice fierce. "Not you." Then he kissed me again, deeper, dragging me down onto the couch, bodies tangled in a desperate, frantic knot. Hands slid over bare skin, hot and insistent. Clothes disappeared, neither of us careful, both of us too frantic to care. I gasped as Caleb's mouth trailed down my neck, my chest, worshipping every inch. He left a trail of fire in his wake, branding me in ways I couldn't undo. When he finally hovered over me, both of us bare and trembling, he paused, just for a moment, his forehead pressed to mine. "Last chance," he whispered, voice hoarse. I wrapped my arms around his neck, dragging him down into me. "No more chances," I rasped. "I want this. I want you." The last thread of hesitation snapped. Caleb kissed me again, messy and raw, as he guided our bodies together. The first push was awkward, painful, even, and I bit down hard on his shoulder, stifling a cry. He soothed me with murmured apologies, with careful hands, with slow, shallow movements until the burn faded to something sharper, sweeter. Until I was clutching him closer, urging him faster. Until the world disintegrated around us, leaving only the heat, the rhythm, the devastating feeling of finally being seen, being wanted, being taken. I came undone first, shuddering under him with a strangled gasp, pleasure ripping through me so violently I thought I might break apart. Caleb followed, collapsing onto me with a low, guttural sound that made my heart ache. For a long moment, neither of us moved. We just breathed, tangled and sweat-slick, clinging to each other like survivors. Guilt loomed at the edges of my mind, dark and inevitable. But in that moment I didn't care. All I cared about was the way Caleb's fingers traced lazy patterns on my back. The way he held me like I was something precious. Eventually, he shifted, rolling us onto our sides so he could see me better. He brushed a damp strand of hair from my forehead, smiling in that soft, rare way that always made my stomach flip. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, throat too tight for words. "You're mine now," he said, quiet but certain, like it was a vow. I should have been terrified. Instead, a reckless, stupid hope bloomed in my chest. Maybe we could have this. Maybe we could make it work. I didn't know what the future held, didn't even know if we had a future, but for now, wrapped in Caleb's arms, everything else faded away. I drifted towards sleep, lulled by his steady heartbeat under my ear. But deep down, some part of me knew the night wasn't over. Not yet. Because secrets this big don't stay buried. And consequences were coming. Fast. I woke to the sound of keys rattling in the front door. Panic slammed into me like a freight train. Caleb stirred beside me, blinking groggily, confusion sliding into fear as the door creaked open. Mom's voice floated through the hall. "Jamie? You home?" Reality hit us both at once. The discarded clothes. The slick heat between our bodies. The undeniable, irrevocable truth of what we had done. "Shit," Caleb breathed, scrambling off the couch. I followed, shaking, grabbing clothes and yanking them on with trembling hands. We moved on autopilot, fueled by pure survival instinct. We barely managed to make ourselves look decent by the time Mom appeared in the living room doorway, shopping bags dangling from her arms. She froze. Her eyes swept the scene, the rumpled couch, the flushed faces, the awkward space between us. Her gaze sharpened, suspicion flaring. "You two okay?" she asked, voice carefully casual. "Yeah," I croaked, too fast, too loud. Caleb forced a laugh. "Just watching movies." Mom smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She didn't believe us. Not really. Not yet. "I'm gonna take a shower," I mumbled, fleeing upstairs before she could ask anything else. I locked the bathroom door behind me and slid down to the floor, heart pounding against my ribs like a prisoner desperate to escape. What the hell had we done? The guilt I'd managed to push away last night now roared back with a vengeance. I buried my face in my hands, fighting the urge to scream. This was more than just a mistake. It was betrayal, to Mom, to our family, to whatever fragile trust we'd all been trying to build. And it was betrayal to myself. Because even now, after everything, part of me didn't regret it. Part of me still wanted him. A knock interrupted my spiral. "Jamie," Caleb's voice came through, low and urgent. "We need to talk." I opened the door. He slipped inside, locking it behind him. We stood there, barely breathing, the space between us vibrating with everything we couldn't say out loud. His hair was messy, his eyes wild with fear and something else, something raw and desperate. "I'm sorry," he said, voice cracking. "I didn't mean for it to. I didn't." "You didn't force me," I whispered, cutting him off. "I wanted it too." He sagged against the sink, exhaling hard. "But it's fucked up," he said. "We're fucked up." I didn't argue. There was no defense, just the undeniable truth of what we were. "We have to stop," I said, throat tight. We can't ever do that again." Caleb flinched like I'd hit him. But he nodded, jaw clenched. "Yeah," he rasped. "Okay." Silence swallowed us whole. Not the easy silence of before, when tension crackled with possibility. This was a graveyard silence. Heavy. Permanent. "We should stay away from each other," I said, voice hollow. He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "In the same fucking house? We don't have a choice," I said. "We can't risk Mom finding out." He pressed the heels of his hands into his eyes like he could block out the whole damn world. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said fiercely. "No matter what happens." I believed him. That was the tragedy of it. Caleb wasn't the villain. Neither was I. We were just two broken boys trying to survive the only way we knew how, even if it destroyed us. I brushed past him, unlocking the door. If I stayed 1 second longer, I would crack wide open. We pretend it never happened, I said without looking back. For everyone's sake. The door clicked shut behind me, cutting off whatever he might have said. The days that followed were pure hell. We became ghosts in our own home, orbiting each other like distant planet. Mom noticed. How could she not? But she chalked it up to adjusting and didn't push. Thank God. At night, I lay in bed replaying every moment of that night, the memory both a wound and a balm. I missed him. I hated myself for missing him. Sometimes I caught Caleb looking at me across the dinner table, eyes dark with everything he couldn't say. I always looked away first. Because if I didn't, I knew I'd do something stupid. Like kiss him again. Like beg him not to let me go. We survived. Barely. But survival came at a cost. The easy laughter we used to share evaporated. The stolen touches, the playful shoves, the long conversations deep into the night, all gone. Replaced by cold politeness. Safe distance. We became what everyone else believed we were supposed to be. Brothers. Strangers. Liars. And yet, some nights, I still woke up aching for him. Still dreamed of that night on the couch, when everything had been messy and forbidden and terrifying and perfect. Maybe part of me always would.